What's up, guys? This is the Speedway review. We are back. You only see 3 faces today, but then you see down at the very bottom below me, NASCAR Pioneer Bill Lester joins us this week. Bill, welcome to the Speedway review.
Appreciate it, guys.
Welcome.
Have some fun.
All right.
So as you guys, So as you guys know, it was a big week in NASCAR. The African American driver to win not 1 but 2 Premier League races.
All right. Which of course,
Corey,
we had.
go ahead
which
and,
of course we.
Yep.
Which of course we had Bubba Wallace, who won the race on Sunday at Kansas. Of course, he got his second career win, first win of the season, and of course it was the third win for 23XI Racing. And I'm going to be honest, I was very surprised on how Bubba raced on Sunday, but watching that race, I just said to myself, like, man, like, Bubba drove a really good race and drove a smart race too. And the fact that he won that race on Sunday, I was very happy for him.
So why were you surprised?
I mean, the surprising part about this is that, if you watch the first 2 races in the playoffs, 2 of the races, we've had 2 non-playoff winners so far. And we've had 1 driver that's already advanced on points, but we had nobody that hasn't advanced on a win yet. So that's the only thing that kind of surprises me. And the fact with this new car, I kind of said to myself, with this next gen car, I think we're probably going to we might see some competitive racing, not only in these playoffs, but now the round of 8, if we have the same thing, with another non-playoff driver that wins and nobody that doesn't advance with a win, I'd be very surprised. But then yet again, what a surprising way, to start off the playoffs, especially in the Cup Series.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, there really shouldn't be any surprises at this point. I mean, you've seen just how many folks have won races throughout this year with the new next-gen car. And who was it in the 43 Petty car who won Darlington?
Eric Jones.
Eric Jones, know, so right there, that's proof positive that, just take what you know and throw it out the window.
And another statistic, too, is that this is the first time that we've had 18 different winners since 2001. If you think about it, 2001, that year, also included 4 first-time winners, or I think 5 first-time winners, because you had Michael Waltrip, who won the Daytona 500. You had Kevin Harvick, who won Atlanta. Then you had Ricky Craven, who won Martinsville, and then Robbie Gordon, who won at New Hampshire, which it kind of blows my mind because a lot of people, sometimes will say, like, who would have thought that Robbie Gordon would have got his first career win on an oval instead of a road course, But honestly, I will say this. If we can get to 20 different winners by the end of the year, this just goes to show you that, this next-gen car pretty much just showed up in race. And, a lot of the guys that, that have been running up front and running close to the front, all year, that's just pretty much made a good statement that, that this new car is fun to race.
Well, it's fair to say it's definitely leveled the playing field. Those
without question.
Teams that have been traditionally strong because they got a notebook a mile long, now everybody's playing and starting, from scratch. And so, yeah, of course, the bigger teams with more resources are going to have more engineering and that sort of thing. But there's proof positive here that some of the smaller teams like, Richard Petty and I guess, what is it? What's his partnership?
GMS.
GMS, thank you. Yeah. That don't have, unlimited deep pockets can make it happen. So, I mean, I think it's really exciting. I don't think it's going to be like that next year. But this year, with a clean slate, the sky's the limit. So, we should enjoy this because I'm not sure we're going to see this much diversity in terms of winners for a long time.
Right. Absolutely. Jordan.
Wake up, Jordan.
Every episode.
No, so sorry, I was. No, I'm a.
Man, what are you smoking?
No,
what are you smoking?
Every episode. Jordan.
No, sorry, it was lagging. But no,
come on, don't
Corey,
make me
you
take
have
over.
The exact point, you have the exact point. This new car, I was kind of iffy about it at first because it was supposed to go in 2020, and they had these issues, and then 2021 they're like, okay, we're going to send it going, and they're like, okay, no, we'll do it 2022. At the beginning of the season, I thought they jumped the gun on it, but like Bill said, look, this car is here. Like, you've seen teams that's never won before. Like, The 99 car hasn't won since Carl Edwards. The 1 had not won since, I don't even remember. And then you got the 43 back in victory lane. Yep. Then you got the 43 back in victory lane. The 3 car was in victory lane this year. And now you got the 45 that has never been to victory lane other than Kurt Busch.
Right.
So this next gen has really done a lot for these cars that has not won in a very long time.
Oh, absolutely.
I definitely think that it's made it more exciting because you don't know necessarily who's going to win. But it's not all peaches and cream. As we've seen, these cars are transmitting a whole lot of impact to the drivers, right? I mean, you saw what's going on with Kurt. Kurt's out. Denny didn't want to run, an Xfinity race because he was still trying to recover from a hit in the Cup car.
Right.
And so, they're very rigid. The way these cars are built now is they're kind of like component built, right? They got the driver compartment, then they got the front clip, they got the rear clip, and it all bolts together. And together, it's a very strong unit. And all of that energy, when you hit, is being transferred to the driver. So NASCAR's definitely got an issue they need to address. That was kind of made clear when preseason testing was taking place and they were running their simulations and they were seeing some of these G impacts. And somehow I guess they were able to schmooze the drivers into believing it was going to be okay. But clearly it's not okay. So if that's not enough, we got a problem, obviously, with the fact that with the 18-inch tire and wheel, without interliners, we got all these tire failures, right? I mean, before they could limp around on 15-inch tires and wheels because you had an interliner to get to the pits. Now, if you have a blowout because typically they're running too much camber, trying to get away with better performance to the corners, you're in trouble because you can't hardly limp these cars back to the pits on the rim, right? Because there's just with how low these cars are, they just can't, there's no ground clearance, right? So they're getting picked up by the rollbacks and dragged back to the pits, dragging off the diffusers in the back of them and all that kind of stuff. So let's, not get it twisted. There are good things about the car, which is that it's really opened it up for everybody. But there's some very disconcerting, unsettling things about this car that they need to work out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that there's been talks the last couple of weeks, on how, you see the wrecks on TV where, some of them, they don't look bad, but then yet again, like you see like the inside part of the car where, of course, a driver that takes a hard hit, I got to tell you, like, when we saw Kurt Busch's crash at Pocono, it didn't really look that bad of a hit. But then, when we saw that he was out, because of like concussion-like symptoms, I thought, okay, he's probably going to be out. I don't know, maybe like quite some time. We're not going to be sure like when. Now we're already in September. So now we're not even sure, like, if he's going to be back in the car next year or whether if he decides, to hang it up this year. That's the only big question about that. And of course, hopefully next year, NASCAR can take a look at, the safety wise about this car. Cause, we've seen like, a couple of hard hits this year where, it kind of hurt from like the inside.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So, it's not all peaches and cream, like I said, but at least you don't know for a fact who's going to hit the checkered flag first. I mean, I remember seeing something where I can't remember which race it is. You guys are much more historians than I am, but somebody put some money on like for the drivers. I think it was at Daytona to finish in the top 10, and they turned like some money into $1 million. I'm like, what?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. So this guy ended up putting in like a $13.49 parlay, and he almost walked away with like, $1 million and so forth. And I'm like, how is that even possible? Even I was starstruck by that.
And it's because, all the front runners were taken out. And so, these guys had the right strategy at that time, which was cruise and collect, be there at the end. They were there at the end. And, this one lucky dude who might as well play the lottery every day, he walked away with a whole grip full of money. So good for him.
Yeah, and absolutely good for him as well. And of course, with Daytona, you just don't know what to expect. And of course, the summer race, when I was watching that, we did have that big wreck, with like 25 laps to go. And it's funny because like, you have all these top contenders that get taken out. And then you see these guys, that you don't really see like in the top 10 before. Heck, BJ McLeod finished in 6th. And I'm thinking to myself, like, how does he start in the back and then he finishes in like the top 10? It doesn't make sense. And then you have Cody Ware who finishes in like the top 5. Yet again, like, you don't see him run the top 5. Like
Cody Ware? Where?
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
that's not your stand-up routine.
There's that bit. That sometimes I look for. Sheesh.
But anyway, no, it was really exciting, and I can't tell you how elated I was that Bubba won. I mean, I definitely wasn't counting my chickens before they hatched. He showed that he had a car that was there and could contend and was one to beat because he qualified really well. They put a nice, strong horse underneath him, and one of the things I was most relieved about is that the pit crew executed. They didn't kill him, and so I was just really happy about that because we've seen him have some good runs, and the next thing you know, it's a 15, 18-second pit stop, and he's, fighting his way back up to the front, that sort of thing. But they all came together at the right time. And that's what's so crazy about this sport is that everything has to click. Most people don't realize that, it's just the driver or it's just the car or it's, whatever. I mean, listen, it's all those components. It's the car, it's the crew, it's the strategy, it's everything. All the folks back at the shop that put everything together so that when they unload, they were fast. It's just a multitude of things that, have to come correct for you to win. And you have such little control at the end of the day, especially as a driver, over everything that takes place, that when it comes together, man, it is the most, sensational, phenomenal, exciting, aspirational thing that can happen because, you did your part, but everything had to come together. That's why, people don't think NASCAR is a team sport. It's the epitome of a team sport. A lot of people don't think NASCAR drivers are athletes. Okay, let me see you sit in one of those cars for 4 hours at 130-degree cockpit temperature, inches apart from each other, making split-second decisions with somebody yelling in your ear, your spotter, your crew chief, you having to make sure that you know exactly what you need when you come down for 4 tires and fuel and adjustments. I mean, it's big. When I was racing,
right
back in the day, I was losing like 8 pounds on a hot day of, just weight loss.
Right.
I would hang my fire suit up in the hauler and it would just be a pool of sweat underneath it, so
right.
It's crazy. But, I'm just so happy that Bubba was able to silence the critics, because I'm in, fairly regular contact with him and I support him wholeheartely. And I just want him to get, his due and just put all the BS aside. They got all these, Monday morning quarterbacks and armchairs, talking about, oh, well, because of this or because of that or whatever. No. Everything came together. He did his job. He's proven he can drive. He's won in other divisions. He's won also in the Cup Series. He can do it. And so when you give him the right platform, it can happen. And it was interesting because I saw something that Bob Pockris said is that he expects Bubba to be a regular winner. And for Bob Pockris to make a statement like that, that's significant.
I definitely agree on that full-heartedly.
Yeah, I agree too. And it's like what this Gage man said here. Rajan Kurth is going to be something when he gets to the Cup Series. Honestly, I can agree with that. Like when his time is right, he'll be up there, and I think he can do pretty good. And it's like this is what I find is funny is people was like, oh, Bubba's win at Talladega last year didn't count because it was a rain win. So you mean to tell me that the races that Earnhardt won, rain shortened, Denny Hamlin won shortened, Jeff Gordon won shortened, those don't count either? The typical hate that he got all of last year and all of this year when he won that race with no help from the rain, I was like, that's how you silence the haters. And the haters are still talking like, oh, it doesn't count. This is not on NASCAR. It was fixed. It was rigged.
Yeah,
like, if you don't like, it's like this. If you don't like who's racing and who's winning, then don't watch anymore. Just move on to watch something else.
Right.
F1, IndyCar, something.
Yeah, they had the audacity to talk about, how Denny Hamlin gave it to him. And it's like, you heard what Denny said after the race. It's like, I'm not giving anything to anybody. So you can get off of that, bandwagon right now because Denny's there to win. Sure, he wants to see Bubba do well and 2311 do well. But his first priority is to Joe Gibbs Racing. That's where his paycheck comes from.
Exactly.
So he's going to do his level best to win. But he couldn't run him down. So, that's proof positive that Bubba had, 2311 and Bubba 45 team, they had it together, and so it's very interesting that how he starts out in the 23 and now he's in the 45, it's like, it doesn't matter. It was still the same equipment and it was still Booty Barker, calling the shots. Of course. So what else do they have to say?
I mean,
exactly. And it's the first time that two different drivers are in the same car that won at the same track in the same year. So I got to give props to 2311. Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin are doing a phenomenal job.
Right.
I can't wait to see how they do with Tyler Reddick in 2024. and Bubba Wallace going forward. So, and I hope Kurt Busch can eventually come back and finish out the season. If he does, he will be in the 23 car to finish out the season. So best wishes out to Kurt Busch, and hopefully he can get back on the track before the end of the year.
Yeah, it's very precarious how, Kurt has been very quiet and there hasn't been a whole lot of discussion going on regarding his recovery. I mean, it makes me fear that, it was very, very serious. And I'm just glad that he's not rushing back into something that he's not ready to hop back into. So, kudos to him because, back in the day, Dale Jr. would tell you that, these guys drove hurt, it didn't matter. They weren't giving up their seat, and so now with what we know about, concussion protocol and everything that happens CTE, it's good that he's got his longevity in mind and that he's going to come back when it's time. But there's also something else, Jordan, you mentioned, which was about Tyler Reddick. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see how he gets along at RCR next year in light of the fact that, Kyle Busch is going to be there.
Yeah.
Essentially in his car. I mean, it's like, I don't know how Tyler is going to be expected to do well. I mean, it's like he's almost on the sidelines. And, I've seen some things about how RCR did that to spite him for announcing that, he's going to 2311 early, a year early. But, I just think that it's going to be, I hope it's harmonious, but behind closed doors, it's got to be a lot of concern and consternation.
Yeah. And the way that I've been watching this closely is that, of course, after Tyler Reddick won at Road America, of course, Reddick was the only fast RCR guy that was this season. Then 9 days later goes to Childress and says, oh, by the way, I'm going to 2311 in 2024, which pretty much just hit us out of nowhere. I mean, I didn't even expect the fact that he was going to go to another team in 2 years. To think about it, if I was a team owner and my driver would say, oh, by the way, I'm leaving, 9 days after I, won a race, I would be upset too. And, Childress pretty much had the right to be upset. And of course, there was talks of, oh, they're going to let go Reddick after the end of this year. And then, of course, there's also talks of, Reddick still has to run the contract because, that's basically what it is in sign. And then I heard after the press conference on yesterday, they said that Reddick was either going to run a third charter or Childress pretty much went up to Reddick and said, oh, by the way, you're basically done after the end of the year. And of course, going to 2311. So, I look at that situation, and of course, I don't even know what topic we're in right now, whatever. But after watching that announcement and the fact that Kyle Busch is going to RCR next season, I kind of look at that and say, when he went to Joe Gibbs Racing in 2008, think about before, when Joe Gibbs Racing was still winning races, but they weren't winning as much because back then, you had Tony Stewart who was still winning races, you had Bobby Labonte who won one race, and that was it. But then when Kyle Busch came in, look at what happened, years later. Brought him home, multiple wins, 2 championships, an all-star win, if you count that, and then a dirt win, if you count that as well. And, of course, being the fact that, he also won an Xfinity championship and then, brings up his own team in the Truck Series, which, of course, which that's the team that he owns. I mean, think about it. I think he could probably do the same thing with Richard Childress because, let's face it, Richard Childress Racing hasn't been competitive in a really long time. And I remember, there was times when, they were competitive with Dale Earnhardt. I mean, they've won championships, 6 over the years. They've won a Daytona 500. Well, actually, 3 Daytona 500s if you can count them. But then if you look at the last couple of years, after Kevin Harvick left, and then you brought up Austin Dillon, and then you brought up Tyler Reddick, you bring up Newman, which, of course, Newman was still the only veteran there was. Yeah, think about it. I mean, they were running consistent, but they weren't running competitive as what they were back in the 90s and the 2000s. And I think you bring Kyle Busch up, I think that's going to turn the whole team around. And I think he can put him back on the map next year. Now, my other big question is that, next year, what is he going to do for his Truck Series team? Because I have a feeling that I think he's going to have his Truck Series team merge with Richard Childress, kind of the same thing what Kevin Harvick did years ago when he had KHI. And then when he shut down his doors, he merged his Xfinity team and his Truck Series team to RCR. So I kind of think that's going to happen the same thing with Kyle Busch. And think about this. Even though Kyle Busch is a team owner in the Truck Series, he's a smart team owner. And I think he knows what he's doing as well. But now the only question is what is he going to do with his drivers? Because, of course, John Hunter Nemechek and then Corey Heim and Chandler Smith, they're all under contract with Toyota. So now that's going to be interesting to see if those three guys can break out their Toyota contract, go to Chevrolet, and then pretty much drive for Richard Childress. So that's going to be the interesting thing that I'm hoping to see next year. And if RCR can have, their Cup Series team, Truck Series team, and Xfinity team next year, I think they'll be a fun to watch.
Yeah. So, I mean, let me tell you, Kyle Busch, people have asked me about him, and he and I, you guys may or may not know, were teammates for a brief period in 2007 when we both raced for Billy Ballou in Chevy Silverados in the Truck Series. He is, without a doubt, in NASCAR, the most talented driver I'd ever seen. Now, a lot of people don't like his personality, and okay, so be it. He's made a lot of missteps. I think him getting married to Samantha was a great thing. It kind of leveled him out, it kind of chilled him out, and I think he took a step back, whatever, got out of his own way. But when you talk about somebody behind the wheel doing things I didn't think could be done, he is number one. People said, like, who's the most, amazing driver that you've seen out there? And, I was teammates with Mike Skinner, Johnny Benson, Bobby Hamilton. I've seen a lot of really good drivers, but Kyle Busch, dude, I mean, I'm telling you, when we were at Michigan in 2007 and we were going through 3 and 4 and I was following him and he was probably at 170, 180 miles an hour, full yaw with smoke billowing off the right rear tire. I was like, man, okay, he's at another level, because I'd have been crying on the radio. adjustments. He just disappeared. I mean, I was like, man, I got so much respect for his driving ability. It's bar none. So, people take pot shots at him in terms of, his demeanor and stuff. And he's come a long way, but the fact is, you can't take anything away from his driving ability. And so for when him going to RCR next year will unequivocally answer the question as to what is hindering that program, because it won't be the driver. I can promise you that it will not be the driver. Kyle Busch can get it done if the equipment and the resources and the engineering, whatever the case, everything is there. It will not be for somebody who is, falling out of the seat or can't get it done, because he can flat get it done.
Absolutely, without question. And of course, given the fact that Kyle Busch has won like the most races in all 3 series, I mean, who's to argue with that record? I mean, let's just face it, the guy can drive, like, bar none, And Jordan, wouldn't it be surprising? And I probably wouldn't say, wouldn't this be a surprise to you? Like if Kyle goes to RCR next year and wins the 500? Because let's face it, I mean, Childress has run pretty. I mean, Childress has run pretty well. Listen, Childress has run pretty well when it comes to the super speedways, and when it comes to Daytona and Talladega, you think about how many times Dale Earnhardt has been successful at those 2 tracks. I mean, come on, the guy literally has won. The guy literally has won the most races at Daytona by none. And the fact that he has only one Daytona 500, that's still I mean, the fact that he has only one Daytona 500 still surprises me. I mean, you look at all the years, when Earnhardt should have won the Daytona 500. I mean, 1990, if you guys remember this, 1990 would have been his best shot. Led most of the race, goes down to turn 3 and 4, has the race made, boom, cuts down a tire, goes up the wall, and the next thing you know, Derek Cope ends up winning the race. Derek Cope, the fact that he's a Daytona 500 winner now, that still surprises me. But I have a feeling, I have a feeling that I wouldn't be surprised if Kyle wins the Daytona 500, because, listen, we know what RCR can do on the super speedways, bar none.
Absolutely. It's like, look at this. And if Kyle does win the Daytona 500, it'd be the first time that the 8 car has won the Daytona 500 since 2007 with 2007 with or is it 2004? 2004 with Dale Earnhardt Jr. 2004 with Dale Earnhardt Jr.
And it would also be the first time, well, also be the second time a brother duo has won the Daytona 500, because if you remember, Darrell Waltrip won the 500 in '89, and then Michael Waltrip's a 2-time Daytona 500 winner. So think about that statistic.
Yep, and it's crazy. I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to get something to get used to. It's going to take a while to get used to that. It's like when drivers have been with the same team for so many years. I mean, when he made the switch from Hendrick Motorsports, I was kind of ticked off about that a little bit. So my hatred for Kyle kind of went there when he left Hendrick, but it started to gradually build up. Like, he's got good over the years. forms his own truck
Right.
team, which now with his contract, he has the opportunity to race the Indianapolis 500 for Chevrolet.
That would be really cool if he does the Indy 500 and Coke 600 double. That would be pretty awesome.
So his brother did.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah. Yep.
2014. He ran. I think he finished top 10 in the Indy 500, and then the Coke 600 he blew an engine. I think like 300 laps in the race or something like that.
Yep.
But
yep.
But no, that'd be pretty.
Kurt's the last one to do the double.
Yep.
And he did a terrific job at Indy 500. You know, I mean, I was definitely not expecting him to run as well as he did. Yeah, you know, it sucked at the Coke 600, but he really showed well for himself in the Indy 500. So hopefully Kyle will get that similar opportunity.
Right.
But, you know, one of the things you guys talked about, you know, the 8 winning Daytona and all that kind of stuff and how long it's been since that's the case. I'm triggered off the fact that people are like, well, this is an insult to Dale Jr. that Kyle Busch has the 8 car. I'm like, really? Come on now. I mean, it doesn't take much to get, I guess, the NASCAR purists, the traditional purists on edge. It's like,
right.
Time marches on, time moves on, get with the program.
Exactly. And, you know, and as what Chris would say, you know, stuff happens, life moves on. That's it.
Boom.
It does. And it's also, and not to mention, Bill drove the number 8 truck. So we got to put that down in history too.
That is right.
Once like Bill Lester has raced number 8.
Right.
Enjoyed it.
Oh, of course. You know, and also, yeah, Joe ends up saying, you know, it's just a number. So, okay.
True story.
All right. Tori, what do you got cooking up over there?
Nothing but drinks at the moment, brother.
All right. Yeah.
Nothing but drinks at the moment.
Man, you've been nothing but quiet.
The fact that you should see the food that he cooks. Oh my goodness. You have to go down to Alabama and try his stuff.
No,
isn't that right, Tori?
I have to mute my microphone because tonight is Dungeons and Dragons night. There's a lot of conversation going around, and that's why I'm quiet.
All right. Well, now's your time, man. You got the platform. You got the floor.
Well, first of all, never was a Bubba Wallace hater, you know. I treat NASCAR, especially Cup Series, like football. Any given Sunday, anybody can win. As like you guys said, it's this is the first time there's been so many different winners since I think you said 2001. But that's if people really think about it, man, that's good for the sport because just like in other sports of the world, you honestly, man, unless you're just that fan, you get tired of seeing the same person win over and over and over and over. It's always good to see somebody fresh in victory row, man. So it can't do nothing but make the sport better. And it opens up the sport even more because that gives people a new face of NASCAR. Like, oh, damn, this dude won? Really? Didn't he just suck last week? Nah, but you know what I'm saying? Anybody can do that, you know? Anybody can do that. You can suck one week, be in victory lane the next week. So, but as far as Kyle Busch, an insult to the number 8. Man, you can't get mad at that. That's like that would be like I don't know, someone, I'll just throw it out there in case if it hasn't happened yet. That'd be like what's his damn name? Oh wow, I'm drawing a blank. Oh, it'd be like Jeff Gordon, you know what I'm saying, bringing back his car and then offering it to somebody that a lot of NASCAR fans don't like. It's not your decision. He asked him to drive. Be happy with it or watch something else. You know what I mean?
Right.
Hey, Tori, he did do that. He brought in Chase Elliott, but that's a whole nother story.
Yes, but still, though, that applies as well. Like, if you don't like the guy, that's just your damn problem. He asked him to drive it. He accepted. Let's get it. Hit the track, man.
I mean, hey.
It's true.
I mean, look how many people has driven the 18 car. Dale Jarrett, Bobby Labonte, Kyle Busch. It's about to be Ty Gibbs, so it's just it doesn't matter who's in that. It doesn't matter who's in that car number. It's like you said. It's like look at the 5 car for example: Terry Labonte, Mark Martin, Casey Kane, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson. Need I go on? No, because it's just a number. You come to NASCAR to race. It doesn't matter what number is on the side of your door. Kurt Busch has had like 15 different numbers since he's been in the Cup Series. So,
right. So anyway, so Joe ends up saying people complain about RCR not retiring the number 3, but it's not up to the team though. Well, basically, it's pretty much up to Richard Childress that decides, to retire that number, because I think he said, like, after Dale Earnhardt died, I guess, like, he said he didn't want to retire the number. I guess he was going to put it on hold or so forth. And then once Austin Dillon came up to the Cup Series, he asked his grandfather to run the number 3, and sure enough, granted permission on that. And I know a lot of people gave him a lot of flack because, the number 3 is pretty much, Dale Earnhardt's number, whatsoever, yada, 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 yada. To me, I'm kind of like, okay, listen, I'm not saying that, Austin Dillon's the next Dale Sr. Nobody's not going to be the next Dale Sr. Heck, not even Kyle Busch is going to be the next Dale Earnhardt. I'm sorry. Dale Earnhardt probably drove a lot different, than what everybody else is doing nowadays. Because, think about this. Back in 1986, when him and Darrell Waltrip, they were leading at Richmond, Waltrip goes on the inside, and then next thing you know, Dale fish hooks him going into turn 3, and that's how rough he drove. And not to mention, when you had that black number 3, like in your rearview mirror, you either had to race him, or there was no doubt you were going to get booted out of the way without question. Anybody want to speak?
That's true. That's just
don't leave me hanging.
I was just wondering why Tori's over there just cracking up. I'm like, what's going on over there?
Tori just loves to have some fun.
No. Remember, you guys, Dale Sr. is my favorite racer of all time.
Yes, sir.
So when you were speaking that truth, I was saying the whole time, but muted, I was like, yes, sir, you damn right.
That's why I say nobody's going to be the next Dale Earnhardt. Hey, even Kevin Harvick said, the week after Dale Sr. died, he said there's never going to be another Dale Earnhardt.
Man, I threw up so many times that day, dude. Like, I threw up so many times.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think it's fair, man. I just get tired of hearing that everywhere. Like, he's going to be the next this. He's going to be the next day. Dude, there's only one of that particular person. Come on. It'd be fair. It'd be fair if they say, like, he's winning like Dale Sr. Now, that's cool. But, no, dude, there'll never be another Intimidator. Never.
No, not at all.
No. Not at all.
No.
It's like this. I don't know if you guys know this, but this is actually a fact. Back when Kevin Harvick was still racing for Richard Childress Racing, and in 29 he had that black with the gray on it. Richard Childress wanted to run the number 3 All-Star car with Kevin Harvick. Kevin said, out of respect to the Earnhardts, no, I will stick with the 29. So we almost seen the black number 3 back on the track with Kevin Harvick, but he denied to race that number 3, and they actually made a prototype of that car. It just never made the track, just like with Jeff Gordon. He was supposed to race car number 46. They had the prototype, but because of Days of Thunder, they could not run it, and that's how he got stuck with the 24.
Yeah.
So it's up to the drivers if they want to race that number or not. It's like Kevin said, no, I was not that driver. I'm 29, so he, out of respect to the Earnhardts and his legacy, he did not run the number 3 car for the All-Star race that year.
Right. So, anyways, I guess we'll probably do the recap of the Kansas race. So I think everybody gave their perspective on Bubba winning the race, which I'm happy that Bubba ended up winning the race. And all in all, I thought this was a fun race to watch. A lot of the top playoff contenders got into a bit of trouble on Sunday, which, of course, the biggest losers were pretty much Tyler Reddick and Kevin Harvick, which now they pretty much sit below the cut line, and now they have to win on Saturday in order to go to the next round in the round of 12. And other than that, the only thing that I kind of noticed was that, we had some of the top drivers, in the playoffs, had some struggles, and, there was some guys, that had some pit road penalties as well, either speeding on pit road, dragging equipment and whatever. And of course, we had Bubba, who won the race, drove a smart race, and, of course, happy that he ends up getting his first win of the year and also getting his second career win as well. So I'm going to do the top 10 real quick. So Bubba ends up winning the race, and Tori, what are you saying over there?
Before you get to that,
all right.
I want to say this, and I'm pretty sure you three will agree, and everyone who's watching will agree.
Yeah.
Now you're about to see who I can't remember. Who did you just say they have to win? Who did you say?
Okay, so I would probably Tyler Reddick and Kevin Harvick.
Okay, now you're finna find out what they're made of. This is literally the proverbial your back is against the wall.
Yeah. So looking at the point standings. Okay, so looking at the point standings, Harvick right now is 35 points below the cut line. Tyler Reddick right now is only 2 points above the cut line. So if you think about it, Kevin Harvick is the only guy that has to come in there and win the race because second's not an option. Because if you finish second, it doesn't matter. You're not going to advance. All you have to do is you got to win and advance to the next round. And you look at Tyler Reddick's situation, sure. I mean, he's 2 points above the cut line, but this is another team that can't afford to mess up on Saturday night. And, of course, you're running 500 laps. I mean, come on. You make one bad mistake, you get caught up in a wreck, it's over for him too.
Listen, Bristol's going to be a dogfight. That's all there is to it.
It is.
It's
going to be fun.
Ugly there because, especially from Kevin Harvick's perspective, almost getting set on fire. He's already got the bit between his teeth. And, being back as far as he is and being expected to be further along, he's got the most incentive of anybody out there. There's no question about that. You talk about take no prisoners. You even try to crowd him, he'll probably rudder you. I'm not even sure, but let's put it like this. He is there to take care of business.
Right, but how many times have we seen, in the playoffs where Kevin Harvick has had 2 bad races, then goes to the elimination race and then pulls off a walk-off win? How many times have we seen that out of Harvick? I remember 2015. He had 2 bad races, Chicago and New Hampshire, goes into Dover, wins the race, moves on to the next round, and that was the year, goes on to the championship 4, and then loses the title to Kyle Busch that season.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So I'm gonna go on the results real quick. So I'm gonna do the playoff drivers first, and then I'll do the other notables. So your playoff drivers who finished this weekend, you had Denny Hamlin who finished 2nd, Christopher Bell in 3rd, Alex Bowman in 4th. William Byron rounded out in 6th, Ross Chastain in 7th, Kyle Larson in 8th, Ryan Blaney in 9th. Daniel Suarez rounds out your top 10. Then you have Chase Elliott in 11th, Austin Cindric in 12th, Chase Briscoe in 13th, Austin Dillon 14th, Joey Logano in 17th, Kyle Busch in 26th, Tyler Reddick in 35th, and Kevin Harvick in 36th. Now, Bubba ends up winning the race, which is your notable. And your other notables are Martin Truex Jr. finishes top 5, Chris Buescher in the top 15, Michael McDowell in 16th, Noah Gragson in 18th, Justin Haley in 19th, Ty Dillon in 20th, Eric Almirola 21st, Cole Custer in 22nd, Todd Gilliland in 23rd, Brad Keselowski 25th, Harrison Burton, 32nd, Corey LaJoie in 33rd, and Ty Gibbs rounds out 34th.
Gotcha. Now, I want to see if we can all agree on this premise.
All right.
Who at the beginning of the year versus where we are now, what team, not individual, but what team would you say is the most surprising in the garage area in terms of how they perform above their playing weight? What would you say?
You first, Jordan.
23-11. Gotta say 23-11.
Next.
I'm gonna say for me. All right, go ahead, Dory.
No, I was gonna say, what was the question? I was taking care of a customer.
All right.
The question was from the beginning. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was telling the customer. Hold on. No, go ahead, Bill.
Oh, okay. What I was about to say is, from the beginning of the season till now, what team, not individual driver, but what team would you say has outkicked their coverage? Somebody you didn't think would be performing, a team, a organization you didn't think would be performing at the level they're performing at now. They basically came out of nowhere and are kicking it out of the park. Who would you say that is?
Oh, wow. Well, wow.
You guys on the spot, don't I?
Hey, damn, wow.
There's no wrong answer.
Honestly, I'll tell you who I expected more out of. How's that?
Okay.
I think I'm pronouncing it right. Stuart Haas.
Yeah, Stuart Haas. SHR.
I
But
yeah,
what
I
I was
expected a
asking
little bit more.
is, that's not my question. I understand. I think Stuart Haas has punched below their weight. I'm talking about
Mhm.
who has punched above their weight. Who has
Honestly,
outkicked coverage?
the the way things started out, no lie, kind of sort of, even though we expected them to be there, but the way things have gone this season, Hendrick Motorsports.
You expected, so you didn't expect much from what you're saying is you didn't expect much from Hendrick to begin the season, but they performed really well as of late.
Now, from where the season developed.
I'm talking about from the beginning of the year.
Oh, damn.
Beginning of
Yeah,
this
you
year.
got me there. Yeah, you got me there.
Okay, I'll let you marinate on it for a while.
All right.
Okay, last but not least.
All right, so if I want to address this one, I'm going to say Trackhouse, because if you think about it, last year they started off with one car and they started with Daniel Suarez. There was times last year, they were consistent, and of course didn't win a race that year, but they were consistent last year. Then this year they bring a 2-car team. You have Ross Chastain in the mound, and I kind of thought, okay, I kind of expect him, to be the same thing this year, but what I didn't really expect out of them was they won 3 races this season. The fact with Ross Chastain winning 2 races and Daniel Suarez end up winning the race at Sonoma, I don't think anybody expected that. And I don't think anyone expected, Trackhouse to run pretty good this year, and the fact that they got 3 wins this season. But I would probably say that's my biggest surprise this season, out of any team in NASCAR.
5 words. We are in complete agreement. Trackhouse. I did not expect really anything out of Trackhouse. And I expected something out of 2311. But Trackhouse effectively came, from my perspective, out of nowhere to get those wins that you were talking about, and to be in the same sentence as like Hendrick and RCR. I mean, they've really just taken the ball and run with it. For an organization that, you didn't think seeing Daniel Suarez win a race was going to happen this year. At least I didn't. That came way out of left field.
Right.
We already knew that Ross, was a wheel man and had that potential.
Yeah.
Daniel just has never been in a position where he had everything that he needed and could put it together. And Trackhouse has provided that infrastructure where I am just thoroughly impressed. And Harvey James, I saw your note up there, man. Yeah, exactly. Trackhouse. No question.
Yeah. A lot of people, were also commenting saying Trackhouse, and I pretty much say the same thing as well. And who knows? I mean, we'll see what happens, if both of their cars can make it to the next round, and we'll see if one of their cars can make it into the championship 4, if not, maybe 2. But I would probably say, Ross Chastain has the most potential to make the championship 4 this season.
I agree.
Yeah. So anyways, let's move on to the Xfinity race. I know Jordan's going to cover the truck race just a bit. So we go to the Xfinity race on Saturday. So what happened in the Xfinity race? Well, we had the race, rain shortened, Noah Gragson wins, moving on. No. Anyways, I'm going to try and make this one short, because I know the race happened on Saturday. And of course, we ended the race 94 out of 200 laps, even though the rule is that once we're past stage 2, the race is official. And of course, everybody knew the rain was coming, and Bill, how many times, have you been in a situation where, the crew chief, is saying on the radio, hey, rain's only 25 minutes out? What's your mind perspective about that?
Well, I leave it to the crew chief and the engineers and stuff to give me the information that they believe is best suited. I mean, all I have is what's out of my windshield. I don't know what's coming,
Right.
I mean, I can't make that call. These guys got all the, technology and all the tools to be able to make an informed decision. And so I put those calls in their hands. I mean, I can't armchair quarterback and drive at 180 miles an hour at the same time. So whatever they say effectively goes. If they want my input, sure, I'll give it to them in terms of, okay, well, I believe that it might make sense for us to maybe pit and get tires now because, my car's junk or whatever. And, I can't last another 5 laps. But at the end of the day, it's really on the guys that are on the pit box that are going to make the call. And, that's where you put your trust in them.
Exactly. And of course, we had the crew chiefs, that were telling the guys, hey, the rain's coming, we got to make sure we get a lot of track position we can. And of course, we did see the end of stage 2, everybody was battling for position, and, the early part of the race, it was a good battle between Ty Gibbs and Noah Gragson. And by God, I mean, I probably say I've been more impressed with Noah Gragson this year, than anybody. I mean, not only him, but I would probably say Ty Gibbs included. But the thing that I kind of found it funny, like, was, if you guys saw, like, during the rain delay, there was a time where, they said, oh, the race is official, yada, 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 yada. And then a few minutes later, they would come out and say, like, oh, yeah, by the way, guys, nothing's official yet. And then 15 minutes later, they say, oh, yeah, now the race is official. So, which I kind of sat there and I'm like, well, which one is it? Because it's already raining and we're not going to go back racing anytime soon. And given the fact that Kansas has lights, which that has that option, but no, I mean, with much respect, Noah Gragson ends up getting getting the win on Saturday. It was his 5th win
It's
of the
like,
year.
I'm right there with you. It's like, I'm right there with you, Corey. As soon as they said they lost the racetrack, I'm like, the race is over. Just call it. You lost the racetrack. There's no way in Sam all get out are you gonna be able to get that track dry. Like, just call the race. It's over. Noah wins. Let's move on with the next race. Let's move on to Bristol. Now, had it been the final cutoff race, I would see that they would have postponed it to at least the next day. I could have seen that.
Yeah, I could agree on that.
Now, is it me or does anybody else find it interesting that nobody said, that's not a legitimate race win, Noah? It was only halfway.
Yeah, something like, and the fact that the race ended at like 94 out of 200 laps, I thought that was kind of short. But then yet again, with the stages, I mean, after stage 2, it's official anyway. So, yeah, I mean, it was kind of one of those wins where, you say, okay, it's raining, but, we'll take the win anyway, so be it. But, but now, given the fact that Noah has 5 wins this season, I'm going to break down, both Ty Gibbs both Ty Gibbs and Gragson's stats real quick. So Ty Gibbs has 5 wins, 10 top 5, 16 top 10 finishes. Gragson, meanwhile, has 5 wins, 14 top 5s, and 18 top 10 finishes. Now, Gibbs' average finish is a 9.8. Gragson is a 9.7. Now, my question to you guys is, who is the most likely driver to win the Xfinity Championship this year?
Gragson.
Bill?
I would say Gragson as well, just because of the depth and the resources of Junior Motorsports, and the teammates and that sort of thing. Gregson's got guys that can complement him easily, in terms of Allgaier and Barry that are running up front consistently. If you look at what's happening with Ty's on an island. He's by himself,
Right.
His teammates are there one day and kind of gone the next. So Gragson, theoretically, I would say, has the best chance of winning.
All right. And for me, at the start of the year, we saw that Ty Gibbs, was dominating kind of early, winning, most of early of the season. But then as we shifted towards the second half of the year, and then once Gragson started getting that momentum and started winning races week after week, then my mind kind of shifted towards, all right, I think this is more likely Gregson's going to win the championship this year. And honestly, I think it's going to come down between him and Ty that wins the championship this season. And I have to say this, I think we're going to be looking at an exciting championship for in the Xfinity Series this year, depending on who makes it. Now, I know Gragson and Ty are going to make it. Now, the only thing is who the other two are going to make, the championship for. But all in all, I thought it was a fun race on Saturday, and of course, happy that Gragson ended up winning. And we'll see if he can bring that momentum moving forward. So let's look on to the results. You have Noah Gragson who wins the race, Justin Allgaier who finished second, Ty Gibbs rounded out in third, Brandon Jones in fourth, Ross Chastain in fifth, AJ Allmendinger in sixth, Josh Berry in seventh, Sammy Smith in eighth, Sam Mayer in ninth, and Brett Moffitt rounds out your top 10. Other notables, you have Sheldon Creed in 11th, Austin Hill in 12th. You have Landon Castle in 13th, Riley Herbst in 16th, Anthony Alfredo in 18th, Jeremy Clements in 21st. Raja Karuth rounds out your top 25. Then you have Dylan Bassett in 29th. You have Bailey Curley in 35th. And sitting in last place in 38th is none other than Jeb Burton. And that is Jeb Would It Be.
Now, Corey, to go back to Jeremy Clements' team won the appeal. They are in the NASCAR Xfinity Series playoffs. So that's awesome that they won their appeal. Because that was kind of wasn't his fault, because Daytona was a wild race.
Of course. You know, and I thought the whole intake penalty thing I thought was kind of BS, but glad they ended up appealing the penalty. They won the appeal, and now they're in the playoffs moving forward.
And let me tell you real quick, that's a big deal that they win the appeal, because NASCAR typically does not, put down sanctions for no reason. And as a NASCAR appeals panel member, I've been in enough appeals to realize that NASCAR is typically not overruled, and usually the penalty or whatever the sanction usually remains. So for them to have accomplished that and got it overturned, that's a big deal.
Okay. All right. And not to mention, of course, it's a huge win for Jeremy Clements. And of course, we'll definitely see how that team does moving on in the playoffs as we go on in 2 weeks and so forth. Now, I know Jordan is going to recap the Truck Series race that happened on Friday night. So I know I watched it, Jordan.
I think it's just kind of messed up that you guys didn't ask me who I thought would win the Xfinity Series.
Because we already know what you're
going to say. You already know it, baby. Go ahead and tell people.
We already know who you want for the Xfinity race and for the
who do I want to win, baby? Tell everybody.
The kid who drives in the 54 car.
You damn right. That's all I wanted. Yeah.
Even though he hasn't watched a lot of Xfinity racing, but he always roots for Ty Gibbs every weekend. Isn't that right, Tori? There you go. Yeah, I think he agrees.
First things first. Before we get into the Truck Series results, I would like to say that in 2023, Craftsman returns as a title sponsor for the NASCAR Truck Series. So it's funny because back in February of, I want to say last year, when I first interviewed Lester, I said, I mentioned Craftsman Trucks, Winston Cup. And now jump 2 years later, it's actually happening again. So
in a big way too.
That's actually funny.
And my debut in NASCAR was in the Busch Series.
Yeah.
There you go.
What are the odds?
Right. So, as you know, Carson Hocevar came so close yet again. So I did watch the highlights of the truck race. I thought it was a great race. Let's see if we got some more comments pouring in. I'm not a big Ty Gibbs fan after his fight with Sam Mayer. Oh, Lord.
Oh,
he
boy.
He should have took his helmet off.
Look at the look on Tori's face.
Anyway,
Tori,
John
come back here. Come on. Anyways.
John Hunter Nemechek wins. Carson Hocevar second. Ryan Preece third. Zane Smith fourth. Grant Enfinger fifth. Chandler Smith sixth. Corey Heim seventh. Ty Majeski finished eighth. Kobe Howard finished ninth, and rounding out your top 10 is our guy, Christian Eckes. Parker Klingerman 11th, which I'm still amazed that Parker Klingerman got that first win of his career at Mid-Ohio, my home track.
Oh, yeah.
Matt DiBenedetto 12th, Ben Rhodes 13th, Tyler Akron 14th, Matt Crafton 15th, Tanner Gray 16th, Brett Holmes 17th. Kaz Grala, there's a name you haven't heard in a while, finishes 18th. Timmy Hill 19th. Stuart Friesen finishes 20th. Derek Krause 21st. Derek Cross 21st. Haley Deegan finishes 22nd. Dean Thompson 23rd. Caden Honeycutt 24th. Chase Purdy 25th. Jack Wood 26th. Bailey Curry 27th. Jesse Little 28th. Tyler Hill 29th. Blaine Perkins 30th. Lawless Allen, again, I agree with Chris. Dumbest name.
Oh my God.
Mason Maggio, 32nd. Spencer Boyd, 33rd. Our guy, John Vandal, works on that truck. Brandon Poole, 34th. Armani Williams, 35th. And rounding out last place is Brett Moffitt.
All right. So, me watching the Truck Series race on Friday night, I thought this was a decent race. And, of course, now we're starting to see John Hunter Nemechek peak at the right time because, if you look at it, at the start of the year, he gets that only win at Darlington. And, of course, we all remember what happened last year. He wins like 6 races or so forth, didn't walk away with a championship. Now you look at this year, The Ford truck's been pretty consistent, but, it hasn't been, contending for wins, even though it has 2 wins this season. But I was really hoping that Carson was going to win the race. And I know I was hoping that Phil Gould, was going to make that right pit strategy call. And then, of course, the laps were clicking down. The last 10 laps, I thought, okay, Carson's out to like maybe a 10, 15-second lead. I think he's got it made. But as the laps started clicking down, John starts to like creep in, closer. And by the time we got the 2 laps to go, like he was already like maybe like about a second back. And I thought, all right, now he's literally going to get him like right when we get to the white flag. Sure enough, the white flag happens. Ford truck passes by the 42. Carson ends up running out of gas. And of course, the fuel strategy didn't pull off. And of course, John ends up getting the win. Now you look at the playoff standings, which of course Thursday is going to be the start of the round of 8 for the truck series. So these are the playoff standings as followed. You have Zane Smith, who is 24 points above the cut line. Chandler Smith is about 15 points above the cut line. John Hunter Nemechek is plus 11. Ben Rhodes is plus 4, which of course he leads the cutoff line by 4. Now your bottom 4 is Stuart Friesen, 4 points below the cut line. Ty Majeski, 9 points below the cut line. And Grant Infinger and Christian Eckes are now 10 points below the cut line. So I'm looking at this next round, and considering the fact that we got Bristol and Talladega coming up, let's be honest. I mean, Bristol and Talladega are going to be the 2 ultimate wild cards, and it's going to determine, who makes it to the championship 4. Because let's face it, if you have 2 bad races, at those tracks, you're going to have to win Homestead, to make it into the championship 4. And what I look at this next round is it's going to be very interesting to see, who can survive, Bristol and Talladega, and then hopefully, somebody can win those races and end up punching their ticket to the championship. So, as far as I know, my drivers that I predict that are going to go to the championship 4 are John Hunter Nemechek, Chandler Smith, Zane Smith, and Stuart Friesen. Those are my guys that I think could make a shot at the championship 4. And I think whoever wins this championship, it's either going to come down between the Smiths and possibly Stuart Friesen either way.
Well, I don't have any dog in this fight. So all I want to do is, just recognize, I think the driver who's had the roughest luck this year is Haley Deegan. I mean, it just pains me to watch her run, because no matter what happens, if something bad is going to happen, it seems to happen to her. Yeah. And, I just don't understand it. It seems like it's a calamity every race. It's like she has a cloud over her head. And, I don't know what she did to deserve it, but, I hope the sky's part for her. But it's a train wreck over there, especially when you have your teammates at David Gilliland Racing, especially the 17 that's always like the guest car doing so well, right? So it's not as if DGR's got junk, and she's run well on occasion. It's just can't put it together at the end. And, I'm not going to sit here and try to analyze every race because I don't pay that close attention to it. But when I do tend to look that way, it's like, okay, now what's happened? It's like stuff is just torn up just left and right. So that kind of, bites for her. The other thing I wanted to kind of mention is that Grant Infinger has been a very interesting story, because usually he runs so strong, and he hasn't really run all that strong this year. And I've noticed that, because when he was running for his championship before, he was running with my old crew chief, Jeff Hensley. Yeah. Jeff Hensley, man, he's forgotten more than most people know. He's been around the sport forever, and just a great crew chief. And he and Enfinger did a great job together, and then they went their separate ways. And because then let's see, Hensley went and worked with Crafton, and that chemistry didn't work. And so now Jeff is back with Grant, but it seems like it's too little, too late. But it's just a very interesting dynamic. And what it does is it shows once again that everything has to be in sync. Chemistry is extremely important. Everybody's got to be on the same page. You can't want for anything. Your sponsorship's got to be there. Your program's got to be there. The timing's got to be there, et cetera, and so on. Or else, you just kind of having what Haley Deegan's having, which is like a miserable year. I know. I'm sure she can't wait for 2023, especially being that she's got the house truck, right? She's got the Craftsman truck. So she knows he's ready to come for bear next year.
Exactly. And you look at her statistics, she only has
Like-
one top 10 finish this year. And of course, yeah, I mean, I've watched her run this season, and I'm hoping that she does pretty well. But then of course, it's sad the fact that, she gets caught up in wrecks, that's not her own doing. And then of course, she makes mistakes on the racetrack and so forth. And listen, I really want to see her do well. I really do, and it just sucks the fact that, that she's not running pretty well. And given the fact that, the 17 truck, is running a lot more competitive than what the one truck's doing right now. So I pretty much get what Jordan's saying on that one, and of course, we saw, the 17 truck, win 2 races this year. The one truck hasn't even won like one race. And I think for me, in my perspective, that's kind of an unfair advantage, and so forth. But actually
thank you. I've been saying that.
Exactly.
I've been saying that.
Yeah, say hello to this fan right here.
Haven't I?
Yeah.
I've been saying that all year.
Yeah, exactly. But speaking of Hailie Deegan, I actually got to watch her race at the SRX race in Stafford in June, and she put on a really good show. And I think she finished like 6th or wherever she finished and all that. And not only I got to watch her race, but I also got to watch the owner of Trackhouse, Justin Marks, race as well, and so forth. But you also go to Grant Enfinger. I mean, yes, he does have that one win at Indianapolis Raceway Park. I mean, yeah, there was times where that team was running okay, but you look at GMS as a whole, they haven't been running competitive as what they were the last couple of years. And I look at the Truck Series right now, it's been either dominated by either Kyle Busch Motorsports or Front Row Motorsports. I mean, those are pretty much the 2 front teams, that have been running pretty good all year. I mean, sure, I put Thoroughsport, in that mix. I mean, they've been running consistent this year, but they haven't been winning a lot of races than what KBM and Front Row have been doing all year. And that's why I think, it's either going to come down between Kyle Busch Motorsports or Front Row that wins the title.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, where's Matt Crafton? I mean, it's like nowhere. It's like surprising that he's had such a dismal year. You expect him to be in contention, and he'll get up into the the high single digits, the 8th to 9th and whatever. But
yeah,
as far as closing the deal, man, it's not coming together. And it's not as if he forgot how to drive. So
right.
Again, it's just a really interesting scenario that most people don't appreciate, that it's all got to come together. And I can't stress that enough. I mean, you can't have a weak link and expect to win.
Right. And you look at Crafton's results here. He only has 1 top 5 and 10 top 10 finishes. And I look at that team all year, and I'm saying to myself, this is a team that's won 3 championships in the Truck Series. And the fact that the last couple of years, they haven't been, a championship contending team. And of course, they got eliminated from the next round. I don't know who said that, Crafton was going to win the championship on points. Well, guess what? We're pretty much in playoff mode. So he's automatically eliminated from the title. So there's no way he's going to win the championship until next year. But, you look at Crafton this year as a whole. I mean, sure. I mean, that team has been running good. But again, like all the other ones, he hasn't been running, competitive as what KBM and Front Row have been doing all year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can pretty much go on and on, about, like debating all this stuff. I mean, this is why they pretty much call me Stat Boy,
Yeah, I'm impressed.
I pretty much throw in a lot of stats like you wouldn't even believe, But anyways,
what's funny is the other day.
Yeah.
What's funny, Chris, Corey. Man.
Well, you call me
Corey
Chris?
the other day is
Wait, my name's Chris now? Uh-oh.
It must be getting late out there.
If Chris ends up watching this, and then if he calls me Chris, oh my goodness, he's not going to be happy about that. I'm probably gonna get a phone call the next day. I'm probably gonna get a phone call the next day and say like, "Why did Jordan call you Chris?" I'm like, "I don't know. I didn't even expect him to call me that." Anyways, go on with your point.
He probably forgot it.
But anyway, the other day I was
Jeez.
the other day while I was at work, right?
Yeah.
Really, Joe? Really, Joe?
Yeah. True story.
Oh, Jordan. No, Jordan's good. No, he should have just wrote Jordan's banned from the show, which we always say that on there for fun. So.
Well, no.
Anyways,
it's like talking to you guys and producing at the same time. It's just all at once, But no, the other day I had to take this patient, right? And he was quoting Talladega Nights, and I'm like, yeah.
Oh yes.
He was like,
the worst movie of NASCAR ever made Talladega Nights. Oh my God! Did I?
I
you
mean,
guys know
I
the
will
story
say,
that
okay, I will say this. I mean, Talladega Nights for me is good like once in a while, but then like when you watch it like over and over and over, yeah, I kind of get what you're saying. I mean, it's just like, I mean, I will admit, it's not one of my favorite movies. It's kind of like, my bottom 5, but my all-time favorite movie, and I can't go wrong with this, my all-time favorite movie has to be Days of Thunder, like bar none.
Yeah, Days of Thunder was a good show.
Anyways, go on with your Talladega Nights quote.
Well, what I was going to tell you guys is that you probably didn't know this, but for the premiere of Talladega Nights, NASCAR flew Dale Jr. and I out to California.
Oh, wow.
I think it was Mann's Chinese Theater or something like that for the premiere. And what I got was a strong appreciation for how much money goes into movies, because the premiere of it, I mean, it was unbelievable. The party they had, the food, the drink.
Oh my goodness.
Just the people that were there, the celebrities. I mean, I was like, my goodness. And then I saw the movie and I was like, oh my God.
Oh my
I
goodness.
didn't get back out to the Southeast fast enough.
Oh my goodness. That's awesome.
Well, not too long ago, it was last year when I had that Drive for Diversity episode of World of Auto Racing, and Cap Houston was on it. He was actually one of the extras in the background in that pool scene. He said he had some long hair, and he would just sit back there. I actually paused it on that scene, and I seen him where he was at. That's pretty funny. Anyway, so as
Tori.
you know today,
we gotta give Tori's take on Talladega Nights. Tori, what do you think?
First of all, I'm from Alabama. You already know that.
Yeah.
But nah, man. Actually, I actually have it on DVD on Blu-ray though, but I don't watch it every day. I actually like it, but yeah, man. If you see it over and over again, and I agree with you, Bill. Not to that degree. It's not the worst. I think you said it was the worst, but it's the best NASCAR comedy. The best NASCAR movie is probably Days of Thunder.
Yeah.
Days of Thunder is definitely number 1, but I mean, what's worse than Talladega Nights? Like Stroker Ace? I mean, you tell me.
I mean, I saw Stroker Ace like one time, and I thought that was an okay movie.
So did I.
I've
never again.
I've never seen that movie.
Oh, jeez. Tori, your assignment, you're going to watch Stroker Ace, and then you got to come back next week and tell us what you think.
I don't think I can find that movie.
All right. Anyways, Jordan, you wanted to mention about the schedule for next year.
Yes, we got the schedules out for next year. It was just released today, and by far, I'm loving how it all looks. What is going on with this dang on screen? This is driving me nuts. Got it. Perfect. There we go. Cool. All right. So we're going to start with the truck series, the Craftsman Truck Series. Good. That's going to take a while to get used to saying again. Let's see. So here we go. We got the Trucks Series schedule on the board. As you can see, they are returning to the Milwaukee Mile on August 27th. Bill.
That's a cool track.
Yeah.
What was it like racing on that track? And it's awesome to see it back. And they're also returning to North Wilkesboro as well.
Yeah.
All-Star Weekend.
So I've never been on North Wilkesboro. That was before my time, effectively. But I have driven or raced on the Milwaukee Mile. And, that is a really cool track. And I don't like, quote unquote, short tracks per se. But I enjoyed the Milwaukee Mile. I'm not sure why. I just always got along pretty well there. And so when they dropped it from the schedule, I was like, oh, that sucks. But I'm glad they're bringing it back.
Yeah, I'm more as happy, not only they're bringing back Milwaukee, but I'm also happy that they're bringing North Wilkesboro on the schedule. And the fact that, the truck series is going to Wilkesboro for the first time since 1996. I mean, I have to be honest. The truck series racing on All-Star Weekend and the fact that you got the Cup Series race for the All-Star race at Wilkesboro, I thought that was a home run. And I think NASCAR did a really good job of doing that. And I'm very excited, to not only see that race at Wilkesboro, but I can't wait to see how it all plays out. And I think the whole truck series race, the whole truck series schedule in particular, I think NASCAR did a really good job. I do say this. I will give them credit on having them do one dirt race a year because I'm going to be honest. The race at Knoxville I thought was all right. I mean, except the fact, last year, we had, a demolition derby, which everybody was just crashing all over the place. And then, it took like about, I don't know, bunch of overtimes, until we finally got a winner. But all in all, I think the Truck Series schedule for next year is fantastic. And, I'm glad that, we still got Talladega on the schedule, which is awesome. And then we also got Gateway and Nashville and Mid-Ohio. And, of course, adding 2 new tracks, of course, Milwaukee, which we haven't raced at in a long time. And, of course, Wilkesboro, we haven't raced at in a long time. I think it's a good schedule. I love it.
Oh, yeah, same. And then you've got Xfinity.
Oh, this one I love.
Now, this is an interesting schedule. So I love the fact that they are going to race the streets of Chicago along with the Cup Series. That I did not expect.
Yes.
And it's nice to see them going back to Portland again.
Yeah.
And
but
I'd say the biggest one that I'm actually looking forward to is they got Xfinity at Sonoma.
That's a first.
and then Chicago street race.
Right.
So Xfinity is going to tracks they've not been to before.
Right.
So,
and not to mention, it's going to be the first ever Xfinity race on a street course, which I'm really excited that they're going to do. And of course, the first time Xfinity's going to Sonoma, which let's be honest, I don't think anybody was expecting, Sonoma to be on the schedule. And of course, not to mention, I'm also happy that, they're keeping Road America on the schedule as well.
Right. That's what's confusing to me because the Cup's not going to be there, but they're keeping Xfinity. But then again, Xfinity was originally at Road America before the Cup Series actually went there. Right. So I was just, but they got a lot more road courses this year. Actually, I think it looks like here they got them back to back, I believe. Let's see.
Back to back. You got you got back to back, which you have Portland and Sonoma those 2 weeks. Then you got the Oval at Nashville, and then you got the street race at Chicago.
Honestly, that's going to be interesting. But I would love to see Xfinity hit a dirt track for once. I'd like to see them tackle Bristol dirt.
Hopefully next year. So
maybe. And then of course the big one right here. The Cup schedule. All right. So we have, where is it? So we only have two night races next year.
Yeah.
So it's technically 3 if you count, the Coke 600, but there's only 2 Saturday races next year. And it looks like it's going to be Bristol and Daytona. And then I'm looking forward to seeing the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro. Cup cars back at North Wilkesboro. It's like
that one because that one I'm very excited about. I cannot wait.
Absolutely. Because right after that, because the year after they closed it down, I became a NASCAR fan. So it was kind of bittersweet to see something from my childhood before I actually watched the sport coming back.
Right.
And then I'm really looking forward to the Chicago street race. Overall, it's an amazing schedule, but I'm looking forward to seeing how they do at the Chicago street course with the new car.
Right.
Next year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like an Instacar. So.
Go ahead. Yeah. Bill, give me your take on the Cup Series going on the street course next year.
Well, it's going to be very interesting because, if you saw the simulations of what the track looks like, it's pretty unforgiving. It's not like Sonoma or Portland or, these Elkhart Lake where there's lots of runoff. Here, it's nothing but concrete. So,
right.
I think probably the team owners probably have a lot of anxiety in terms of burning up dollar bills. But I think from the standpoint of putting on a show for the fans, it's probably going to be phenomenal. And the venue is very key to NASCAR. They really want to be in that Chicago market. And so I think, I have actually had a pretty cool affinity with Chicagoland Speedway, but nobody came, nobody went, so, okay, we're going to try something different and bring the racing to the people. And so that's what NASCAR has decided to do. And I hope it comes off well. Listen, my parents are from south side of Chicago. And so I remember many a cold winter with the Hawk and many a hot, humid, windows completely open because there's no air conditioning summer there. So, I hope they found the right time in the year and the season, because otherwise I always say Chicago's got 2 good months of weather. So I'm hoping that the NASCAR race falls in one of those 2 months, but I think it's going to be a heck of a show for the fans. I just hope that, everybody's crash budgets are up to snuff.
And not to mention, you also have it on 4th of July weekend as well. Who could have done that?
That is going to be a firecracker.
Oh yeah,
fun.
Especially having it on 4th of July weekend, you can't get enough of that.
There you go.
But other than that, I'm mostly looking forward to the All-Star race at Wilkesboro, and the fact that the Cup Series is going back to North Wilkesboro for the first time since 1996. I have to be honest. When I saw that last week, I almost fell flat to the floor. I kind of said, "Wait, we're going back to North Wilkesboro for the first time in like the late 90s?" And I wanted to listen. I wanted to say to somebody like, "NASCAR's going back to Wilkesboro next year. I'm so excited!" And somebody will look at me and be like, "What are you talking about?"
Corey, remember, Corey, when you said in the group chat, where would the All-Star race go? And I jokingly said, "What about North Wilkesboro Speedway?" And then a week later, they announced it.
Hey, all thanks to Dale Jr. and Marcus Smith. I mean, come on, let's not thank them enough, because if you guys remember, when you watched that Dale Jr. download, even Marcus Smith, he said, "Just to let you guys know, we haven't forgot about North Wilkesboro." And I'm like, wait, what? And because a lot of people, were saying that, there's no way that North Wilkesboro was going to come back. But then as time grew, the track started to renovating, just a little bit, and then of course, you had the late model races, a couple weeks ago, and then you had all these other racing divisions that came in. What really amazed me the most was how many people that filled up the seats. Mm-hmm. It was unbelievable. I was literally starstruck by it. And now the fact that, when you bring NASCAR to town next year, think of how many people are going to fill up the seats then. It's going to be, I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be awesome for that county because, of course, come on, when NASCAR left Wilkes County years ago, I mean, they basically were just devastated, and when they got that news that they were coming back next year, they're very excited. And I'm just very excited that they're going back to a track that, that's part of tradition. And of course, that's been there, ever since the series started, and to have the All-Star race at that track, that's had some exciting races over the years. I think it's going to be great for the fans, and I think it's going to be great for the sport.
Well, like you said, Corey, I mean, hats off to Dale Jr. I mean, he did so much to really bring that venue back. The thing I hope they do is they pay some attention to the infrastructure, because I saw that with that, cars race or whatever, they showed the traffic trying to get to the venue. And I mean, it was backed up, seemed like for miles. So it seems like it's almost like a one way in, one way out place. I don't know. I've never been there, but
right.
If they're bringing in a cup race and all the folks that are going to be there for that, it's going to be pretty overwhelming to the community. So that's a good problem to have, quite frankly. And again, from a traditional standpoint, it seems like a great track. I've just heard so many people talk about North Wilkesboro, and again, I was sports car road racing in California during that time when, the 80s and 90s and all that kind of stuff. So I don't have much of appreciation for it. But, one of the people I admire a whole lot is the late Benny Parsons. And Benny Parsons, North Wilkesboro was, his home basically. And so I know he's smiling down knowing that, NASCAR is coming back to his home.
Yeah. And I was kind of thinking about that too. And not to mention, who couldn't forget, Benny Parsons? I mean, probably one of the best commentators there was. And, I remember the day he passed, it was devastating. It was very sad for the sport. And, a lot of people, that knew him, were just devastated. And, and honestly, I still remember, BP's famous quote, "Man, oh man, oh man."
Yeah. He was a prince of a man. He really made me feel welcome coming into NASCAR. I don't share this very often, but when I came to NASCAR, people didn't know who I was. It was kind of like that Days of Thunder deal where, Tom Cruise comes into the, the venue on his motorcycle, right? Yeah. And everybody's like, who's this guy, right? Who's this IndyCar driver, whatever. Well, it kind of looked at me like the same way, because here I am road racing sports cars in Northern California. And all of a sudden I show up, you know, racing in NASCAR with not having gone through the ranks of what most stock car drivers, never been in legends, bandoleros, quarter midgets, any of that stuff, right? And so when I came into the garage area, people looked at me like, you know, who is this guy? Like I had two heads, right? But I'll never forget how BP, he embraced me. I mean, we had a great conversation. He was really interested in what I had to say, my background. He kind of just made me feel at home. And I'll never forget how comfortable he made me feel when most of the time, most people were looking at me with a scowl or a frown or, you know, just ambivalence. He was somebody who just like embraced me. So, you know, just from that perspective alone, I'm glad that North Wilkesboro is coming back.
Definitely, for sure. And also, we do want to mention, so we're going to be closing out the show in about 3 minutes. So I want to play this this audio clip. So basically, Chris was supposed to be on the show tonight. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it because of, you know, all the stuff that's going on right now. But so what we do on the show, Bills, you know, we're doing this fantasy league right now, you know, for the Speedway review, and of course Tori's involved as well. So I want to play this audio clip real quick, and we're gonna go over the other points this week and who won the fantasy points for the week and who's the loser for the points of the week. So we're gonna roll the tape.
Okay.
Hey, Speedway Review, it's Chris. Sorry I can't be with you today. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on and a lot of stuff I got to attend to, but hopefully the guys are giving you the show you deserve. But what these guys deserve is the fantasy breakdown, and we're going to go worst to first, starting with Corey, who's in last place, but had a pretty okay week. Justin Haley got you 18 points, William Byron 39 points, Kyle Busch 15 points, and Chase Briscoe 24 points for a total of 96 on the week, making your running total 2458. You lost 5 points on the leader. You are 399 points behind the lead. Conversely, you'd have had 10 extra points and made points on the leader had you kept Austin Cindric. That's what we do, guys. That's what we do. Jordan, pretty good week himself. Denny Hamlin got you 40 points, Brad Keselowski 12, Ross Chastain 34, and Eric Jones 8 points for a weekly total of 94. That puts your running total at 2672. You lost 7 points to the leader. You are 185 points behind the lead. In second place, it was a good week while it lasted. Kevin Harvick gave me 1 point, Joey Logano 28 points, Tyler Reddick 2 points, and Daniel Suarez 27. For a weekly total of 58. That brings my yearly total to 2824. I am 33 points behind the leader, and obviously I lost 33 points to the leader because I was the leader last week. This week's leader, once again, is Tori. Kyle Larson got him 33 points. Chase Elliott, 37. Eric Almirola, 16. And Cole Custer, 15, for a total of 101. And Tori leads the points with 28.57. That is your fantasy breakdown for the week as we go into Bristol. And I will see all of you guys next week. And hopefully you guys had a good time with Bill Lester. I will be watching in the next day or two. Thanks for understanding my absence.
All righty. So that's basically how the fantasy points go down. And as you can see here, Tori is still leading the pack right now, and there he is. You know, he's still going strong, and he hasn't even dropped the driver and picked up a driver ever since, and he's still he's still unbeatable. And I don't even know how we can still beat him. Before you go on ahead,
it's because, brother, I'm from the South, and when we pick something, we stick with it. There's no jumping ship. Think about it. My boy Kyle Larson had a series of horrible races. I didn't drop him. Cole Custer was kind of, he was gaining momentum. Then it went down. Didn't drop him. Chase Elliott is a wild card. I'm not dropping him. Eric Almirola. Come on, dude. I'm sticking with my guys. It's just simple as that. I'm not jumping ship. I wasn't worried about losing no lead. Are you kidding me? Any given Sunday, bro. Any given Sunday.
Tori, that sounds all good. His name is Almirola.
Almirola. Oh, yeah. Sorry, dude.
Yeah.
I think Amarillo. Who is he?
and you know the funniest thing, though, Bill? That's the first time I mispronounced his name.
You worry about those dishes. I hear you.
Oh no, I don't have to worry about that. That's natural, brother. That's natural.
All right.
There you go.
Hey, well, listen, guys, I got to go. I know we're signing off, but it's time.
All righty, Bill. Well, thank you for joining us on the show, and you're more than welcome to come back anytime you want. So the door is always open for you.
Hey, I appreciate you guys. Have a great evening.
All right, Bill.
Have a
Take it
great
easy.
evening, Bill.
All right, see you later.
All righty. Yeah, Bill Lester. What a great guy he is, you know?
Yes, sir.
Honestly,
right,
can I just say one thing? I honestly love Bill Lester. I love Bill Lester. He's probably one of the most humble guy you'll ever meet, and knows a lot about racing, but he's just an awesome guy. Like
Yes,
who
is.
doesn't?
All around great guy, straight up.
Exactly.
But guys, it's been
anyways,
a fun show.
that's
It's been a fun
Go ahead.
show. Look,
Yeah.
look, me running the show tonight, not only being y'all's producer, but also host, it's like me telling back and forth what's going on. It's been fun. So hopefully, I can just sit back like I normally do.
And also
But,
me,
Chris is here.
and also me helping out too. So don't forget about that.
Yeah, so thank you for that.
I kind of led you through the show tonight. So
Mhm.
Look at that.
I wasn't gonna come back till next week, but today was a special occasion. Bubba Wallace won. So
hey, but we're glad you're back though.
Yep.
And
Brandon Jones to the number 9 Xfinity. Joe Gibbs has no full-time Xfinity drivers next year, which means Ty Gibbs is going to the 18. So until next time, gentlemen.
But anyway, so I'm sorry. Before we sign off, so yeah, great move that Brandon Jones is going to the 9 car for Junior Motorsports. Now, my big question is, do we see John Hunter Nemechek go to Xfinity for Joe Gibbs?
We're gonna find out, ladies and gentlemen.
I have a good feeling. I got a good feeling it's more likely to happen, but we'll just have to see.
Yes, sir.
But anyways,
Until next time, this is the Speedway Review.
People.
good night, guys. We'll see you next week.